we go. On three, you're gonna go in, Ian. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So what's up? Exciting things happening around here. No, actually, it's really early in the morning, and everybody's kind of asleep. That's the way that I'm able to kind of slide out here and get a little cup of coffee. Sorry, and tell you what's going on. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the hole in the ground, and you're interested in it, and so am I, and it's an incredible story, and we're going to do that. This is episode 1, first visit, first time doing any kind of vlogging kind of thing or anything like that. So this is episode 1. I hope it's not number 2. I hope it turns out really good. Anyway, so we're going to be talking today about a hole in the ground and an adventure that me and the boys had. But before I tell you that, though, I've got to go back in time and I've got to tell you some other things. But let's do this. Let's roll out that cool intro. You ready? Yeah, there's no cool intro, so that won't happen here. Probably not going to have something neat like that. But anyway, maybe we'll develop something like that as we go along. But here's the issue. There's this adventure that me and the boys are on. But before I tell you about that adventure, what I really feel like I need to do is I need to tell you about where adventure came from in my own life. And I think that's going to be key. So yeah, my mom was always an adventurous person. One of the things that would happen in our family quite often is my mom would make up stories and she would make up adventures for us. I remember there was a time when we would get up in the middle of the night, and Mom did this quite often. We'd get in the middle of the night and we'd go looking for UFOs. Now here's the thing, we were kids, but we were at a place where we didn't believe UFOs really existed, but we believed Mom did, and it made it so much fun. And so we'd get up in the middle of the night. I'm talking midnight. My dad would oftentimes go off to hunt and fish or whatever. And when he would go off to do something, he would leave us there at the house unattended with Mom. And I say unattended because Mom's the biggest kid of us all. And so we would get up in the middle of the night, midnight maybe, and she'd go, come on, we're going to go look for flying saucers. And we'd go out and get in this old station wagon that we had. It was like a silver Oldsmobile station. We called it the Galactica. When we drove it, it just like... And so anyway, we'd get in the station wagon and we'd just take off. And one unit had all the bells and whistles, all electric windows and stuff, and half the windows stayed permanently down. So the seats were always moist and it smelled moldy. But anyway, that's a whole other story. And we would drive around looking for UFOs. And my mom, oh, there's one. And oftentimes we'd go get my grandmother, who was probably at that time, I would say late 60s, maybe early 70s. And we'd get her up in the middle of the night and she'd go with us because she could buy hamburgers. And we'd find some place open somewhere and we would buy hamburgers. And it wasn't until later that I realized that my mom gave me one of the greatest gifts that I've ever been given. She gave me the gift of adventure, of adventure. That's what we could do. And so I've always had this on my mind that one of the great contributions to your kids' lives is adventure. Our kids need to have a spicy set of parents that have this cool just willingness to go full send on something and enjoy it. So one of the things that I've come to realize, let me adjust this, hold on. Come on, you little booger. Right there. So one of the things I've come to realize as a parent is that you got to bring adventure into your kids' lives. And so let me fast forward. I'm no longer chasing flying saucers with my mom. We're fast forwarding to a time when my son was, I don't know, maybe 6, 8, something like that. And my wife and I decided to take our kids for a walk. And where we used to live was on this real hilly space. And we're at the very top of one of these hills, and my son had a scooter. In fact, he had this scooter. You see it? There's parts have been stolen off of it, and we'll explain that and talk about that in another video. But remember these scooters? They folded up. Razors, what they're called. That's a razor scooter. Got to have a razor. All the kids had to have it. This was the shizzle, baby, if you had a razor scooter. Well, Kendall had this scooter. And imagine, if you will, he's like 6 or 8 maybe years old. And so what happens is we are... something was crawling on me, sorry. We're at the top of this hill. My daughter's in a stroller. My wife's pushing her. Kendall's in front of us, and he gets to the top of this hill. We've already walked up this hill, and now we're going back, and he's at the top of it on his scooter, and he looks back over his shoulder, and he says, Dad, should I go for it? And I looked at him, I said, go for it. And So far, before I get to that answer, let me just tell you the reasons behind that, because some people are going to go, that's crazy, moronic. It's not really. If you'll just listen for a second without being so judgmental, some of you need to work on that. So in my mind, here's my thought. I'm raising a boy that needs to be a man. A man can't be afraid all the time. And if you don't know it, fear is a terrorist. And some people live under the constant pressure of the terrorist of fear. And so I didn't want my son to be dominated by a terrorist. That's not how you live. You can't live with a terrorist. No one can live with a terrorist. And so I told him, I said, son, go for it. And my wife looked at me and freaked, because about that time he pushes off with one foot and just disappears out of our sight into the unknown. We don't know, is he going to live or not? So, it was one of those days where my wife is pushing the stroller, let's go of it. She says, get that. It was in slow motion. I don't know if you've ever had your spouse so angry at you, and there's this sense that there's going to be repercussions. And so she looks back at me, and it's all in slow motion. She goes like, I'm going to kill you. And it was a great day. So anyway, I take the stroller, I take off jogging. Stacy, at this point, my wife, is running like a gazelle. She's all of a sudden got super strength and super speed, and she's pew. So she gets to the top of the hill, and I hear her, ah! So I get to the top of the hill just shortly after her, a little winded and kind of dazed and confused. Look down, and at the bottom of the hill, sure enough, there's my son. Scooters off to one side. He's face down in the gravel on the other side. And we come jogging down the hill. People are coming out of their houses, and we get down there to it. Him and and he's standing up, and his chin is like got all the skin missing off of it, and it's bleeding, and both hands are full of gravel, but he's smiling, giant smile. He said, that was great. And my wife is she's needing somebody to sedate her. She's kind of gone to the point where this is like, hey, it's not funny at all anymore. But anyway, he lived through it, and ever since then, he and I have reflected back on that famous quote in the first Transformers when Bumblebee has just been in that death match with the other robot, and he spins around, and there's Shia LaBeouf and the girl, whatever her name is both standing there, and the door pops open on the Camaro, and Shia LaBeouf looks at her and he says, 50 years from now, don't you want to know that you had the guts to get in? And that's the gift of adventure. That's the gift. That's the gift you got to give your kids. You got to give them the gift of adventure. We have grown so infatuated with the false idea that our own safety precautions will actually make us safe that we've started to stop living. Which brings me full circle to where we are right now, and to the point where we are right now. The boys came into my life a few years ago. And so when they came into my life, and we'll talk a lot about that over the next little bit, but when they came into my life, I realized that, I want to give them the same gift of adventure. And kids don't know how to pretend. They don't know how to make things up. They don't know how to have an adventure. And so as a parent, you have to give them that. You have to give them a license. And whether we know it or not, what we're doing to our kids sometimes is we're causing them to be adults before they're supposed to be adults. Kids are not supposed to be adults until they're adults. In fact, I believe you become an adult when you can't do anything else different, when you are forced to, when you can't negotiate any longer, and you must become an adult. Adulting is overrated. It's way better to be a kid. Stay there and enjoy, where you're at. And so that's where this whole comes in. And so we're out playing hide and seek on the four-wheelers, and I'll show you how to do that one day with the boys. And as we're driving along, you understand, we've lived here 12, 13 years. I don't know. We've lived here a long time. We live on 75 acres. We're going to adventure this whole place because something has just happened. Something happened to us that I didn't expect, nobody else expected, but something has happened. We've discovered that this place has a history and a story. There were people here before us. Now, I don't mean just like recent history. I'm talking back in time. And we're going to talk a whole lot about that. But we're playing hide and seek on the four-wheelers, and we're cutting along. We're having a good time. Man, are you catching this? Because this is big. So we're cutting along, having a good time, zipping down through this trail, and all of a sudden we turn a corner, stop. Ian and I are about to hide from Bennett. Bennett's on a four-wheeler, and about that time Ian said, hey, Dad, there's a hole. I mean, seriously, a hole. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, there's a hole. And there was. It's the truth. And so, sure enough, there's this hole in the ground. And we go over to it, and it's not this hole. It was on purpose. It was intentional. There's rocks around it, and it's got ferns growing on it. When I was a kid, I watched this scary show. I can't remember what it was, but this guy, there was a hole in the ground. They lowered him down in this hole, and when they brought him back up out of the ground, I think it was like some kind of urban legend. When they brought him back up out of the hole, he was crazy. That's it. He went crazy. They had to put him in like a crazy place, which they don't have crazy places anymore, but he's in a crazy place. And so anyway, so that's where we are. We see this hole. It's full of water, though. And that kind of takes up where we are kind of right now.
Down there with sitting on it? Or start up here?
You can do whatever you want to. If you want to sit down, grab Bennett's hand. You can look up here at me, okay?
How is your arm gonna go?
I got you. Okay. I ain't gonna let you go, I promise. Are you scared?
Yeah, a little.
Looks like it's pretty deep.
Yeah, your legs are hard.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
This thing's oh my God.
It's cold, too.
Is it chilly?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. On 3, you're gonna go in, Ian. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, his hand! Oh my God! I lost his hand.
Okay, you weren't gonna let me go.
I got you though.
Whoops, my hand slipped. Oh my gosh. Dude, that hole is massive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
I bet you it goes deep.